The Cursive Curse. Elliot Sanders, a ninth grader with an encyclopedic knowledge of obscure trivia, had a knack for slipping random facts into conversations, whether people wanted to hear them or not. His friends called him the walking Wikipedia, and he wore the title with pride. But there was one thing Elliot didn't know, and it filled him with dread: how to write in cursive. His aversion to cursive wasn't laziness, it was survival. Years ago, his disastrous attempt to write a cursive Z had led to an embarrassing classroom moment when his teacher thought he'd drawn a duck. Since then, Elliot has stuck to his trusty print, which is blocky but reliable. When his English teacher, Mrs. Finch, announced a school-wide cursive competition, Elliot's stomach flipped. "The winner gets a brand new gaming laptop," she said, holding up the gleaming prize. His classmates cheered, but Elliot groaned internally. His handwriting looked like it was trying to escape the page. Determined to avoid public humiliation, Elliot sought help from his quirky neighbor, Mr. Mortimer, who was infamous for teaching old-school skills like quill writing and wax seal-making. Mr. Mortimer handed Elliot a fountain pen with an ornate design. "This pen," he said in his deep, theatrical voice, "has a mind of its own. It belonged to a famous author. Treat it well, and it will guide you." Elliot gave a polite laugh, convinced the old man had watched one too many fantasy movies. But as he started practicing, strange things happened. His hand moved with a grace he'd never known, producing flawless cursive. The words, however, weren't his. One night, as he practiced, the pen scrawled across the page, "Trust me, Elliot. Write what I say, and you'll win." A chill ran down his spine. In the days leading up to the competition, the pen continued its eerie guidance. It refused to let Elliot stop practicing, sometimes scribbling by itself to correct his mistakes. "Great," Elliot muttered, "I'm taking orders from office supplies now." The big day arrived. Elliot walked into the auditorium, clutching the pen like a lifeline. As he sat down to write, it took over. His paper was filled with the most beautiful, flowing letters anyone had ever seen. The judges were stunned, declaring him the winner on the spot. Just as Elliot reached for his prize, the pen began to vibrate in his pocket. It forced his hand to write one last line on the competition paper: "This victory is ours. But remember, debts must be paid." Elliot froze. Debts? To a pen? What could it possibly want? Over the following weeks, Elliot discovered the pen had a peculiar demand: it wanted him to write stories. Not essays, not diary entries, but full-blown tales. And the more he wrote, the more the pen seemed satisfied. Despite its haunting quirks, the pen unlocked a talent Elliot never knew he had. His stories gained him fans, a feature in the school paper, and even a nod from Mrs. Finch. But every so often, when Elliot held the pen, it would scratch out a playful warning: "Don't forget who's doing the writing." Elliot never figured out exactly how the pen worked, but one thing was clear: his greatest tool, and biggest mystery, was now his sharpest weapon.